Well, we just received some pretty big news out of the state of Illinois as it appears that Senator Dick Durbin, the Democrat whip and ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, he has just announced his retirement. Yes, this is confirmed. This isn't speculation. This isn't a rumor. Dick Durbin will not be seeking re-election in 2026 and will be retiring. It's right on his Twitter account, so this is confirmed. So that one of the highest ranking Democrats in the Senate right now is officially gone. And listen, is it the biggest surprise in the world? No, it really isn't. I mean, guys, he's like 80 years old. He's gonna be 81 by this November, I believe. So he's not somebody that's like 55 years old or whatever. He's not. He's fairly old, and this was not the biggest surprise in the world. But the point is, this is yet another major retirement on the Democrat side. And listen, the Democrat Party at some point, they should start to panic. Like, if they haven't already, they should start being very worried about all these retirements, because it's not just one random person that retired. No, now we have Dick Durbin, the Democrat whip, and one of the highest ranking Democrats in the Senate. He's announcing he's not seeking re-election, which again, I'm not saying Republicans are going to magically win Illinois. I'm not, because let's be honest here. Illinois is a Democrat state. It could get closer, but the point is, this isn't the first retirement on the Democrat side. Far from it, in fact. In fact, this is the fourth retirement on the Democrat side in the Senate. Yeah, there's been four of them. Of course, the most recent one is Illinois. But look at the other ones. Minnesota, Michigan, New Hampshire. And on the Republican side, of course, you got Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. But outside of that, there's been no Republican to announce his retirement. And in fact, I believe basically every single incumbent have already announced they're going to run again. So unless something crazy happens, it really looks like we're not going to see any more retirements on the Republican side. But already Democrats have four major retirements in states that are not super friendly to them. Now, of course, Illinois is a Democrat state. I mean, guys, this state voted for Harris by 10 points. Now, was that a pathetic performance for Democrat standards? Yes. But this doesn't mean that Republicans are going to magically win this state. They're not. More than likely, Republicans will lose Illinois by like 10 to 15 points like they usually do. But these other states, we're not talking about states like New Jersey, which even New Jersey's getting more competitive. We're not talking about like Oregon or Rhode Island. We're talking about states like Minnesota, New Hampshire, which, yeah, these states voted for Harris by a couple points, but look at Minnesota. It was only Harris plus 4, and she had Tim Walz on the ballot, the supposedly electable juggernaut of Minnesota. Yeah, that same guy actually probably hurt Harris in the state, which is absolutely hilarious. And look at New Hampshire. Harris did awful here. It was within 3 points. It was pathetic of a performance. Trump didn't really even target the state, yet he did that good there. So already, these are 3 retirements, which Illinois is the one outlier. But the other 2, these are states that if Republicans run a halfway good candidate in and Democrats have a disastrous primary, which we'll get to that in a second, maybe something crazy could happen and they can maybe pull off the upset. But then you factor in, oh yeah, Michigan. The state of Michigan voted for Trump by 1.5% in 2024. And right now, Gary Peters retired. And that primary, by far, looks like the biggest disaster on the Democrat side. It looks like an utter shit show. It's a complete mess. And that's the problem. It's not just the retirements are happening, which that alone is bad because, hey, these are states that, yeah, this couple of them voted for Harris by a couple of points, but if you lose the incumbency factor, that could hurt you. And there's a chance that if Republicans run somebody good, well, maybe you could win. And you're noticing these Democrats, they're not in these super Republican states, not really even swing states. Outside of Michigan, Minnesota, New Hampshire, they lean to the left. Yet they're retiring? Like, I understand they're getting up there in age, but every single one of them are retiring, and the same thing might happen in Virginia. Mark Warner might go. It's like, wait, why are all these Democrats retiring basically at the same time? That does not seem like a sign of confidence that all these longtime Democrats, which I know some of them are getting older, but they're all retiring at the same time, and Democrats were completely caught off guard on like 3 of them. That does not sound good. It's as if some of these Democrats realize, oh crap, we have a major problem and I gotta get out of here. And now the Democrat Party, they're scrambling in all 4 of them. Well, not really New Hampshire, but Minnesota's primary looks pretty awful. Michigan's, like I was saying, is an utter disaster that I have no clue how that's going to go, and more than likely, I think Mike Rogers can win that race. There, I said it. And now Illinois. That primary in Illinois, not as bad as, say, Michigan or whatever. And again, that doesn't mean Republicans win the state, but it does seem like there's going to be a fairly competitive primary in Illinois. So 3 of these 4 states, the Democrat Party is going to be spending tens of millions of dollars on these nonsensical primaries and funded by people like David Hogg. The DNC is funding these people. So yeah, that's a bunch of money, time, and resources not being spent on trying to flip a place like, I don't know, Maine, North Carolina, or hell, even Ohio. That money's being spent on races that more than likely Republicans are not going to win outside of maybe Michigan, and could have been New Hampshire if Chris Sununu wasn't a dumbass. But either way, the Democrat Party right now, they have a building problem that not a lot of Democrats or really anyone's really talking about. Guys, we're not talking about 1 or 2 retirements. So far, we have 4 retirements on the Democrat side. And there's a chance there could be a 5th one, a 6th one. It's adding up. And at some point, when you have this many retirements, that's usually not a good sign. Now, again, if these were all safe states that Democrats had no chance of losing, that's one thing. But 3 of these 4 states, they are fairly competitive, especially Michigan. Michigan is probably going to be the most competitive state. So you start looking more at this map, and already it's bad enough for Democrats, but now you're having a very competitive primary in all these states. It's looked like a mess. Their candidates look awful. Republicans, meanwhile, they're not really having this problem. Yeah, you have Kentucky, which that primary is going to suck. I mean, it's Andy Barr versus Daniel Cameron. Honestly, at that point, I don't care who wins. But outside of that, that looks like the only fairly competitive primary, maybe outside of Texas. And that's going to be the one question mark. I hope John Cornyn just retires there. But outside of that, you're not going to see this super competitive primary in every single state. Democrats, meanwhile, right now, looks like 3 of these 4 states, they're going to have fairly competitive primaries. And it's not just the Senate, by the way. No, today, we just saw another major Democrat announce a retirement. Yeah, another major Democrat is announcing they're not running again. And yeah, this is a very Democrat's area. Her seat's not going to flip or whatever. But you're noticing more and more of these Democrats, they're retiring. They're all retiring, and not to run for a different position, some of them are, but they're just leaving. They're just getting out of politics, they're done. Republicans, meanwhile, they've only had 1 person retire. Like, actually retire. And that's Mitch McConnell. The other retirements, it's just people running for different positions, like Byron Donalds running for governor, for example. So, at this point in time, Democrats are suffering retirements left and right. All these primaries are going to look like a disaster outside of New Hampshire, and they're going to be spending all this money. Now, do you see the problem? The point I'm trying to make. The more retirements Democrats have, the bigger of a problem it will be for them in 2026. Remember what happened in 2022 where Republicans had a bunch of competitive primaries? I mean, it ended in a disaster. It's a big reason why Republicans underperformed big time in 22. Because in all these primaries, all this money was wasted. It was a very divided party. And that's why we barely won back the House. And in fact, we lost a Senate seat. So, the Democrats are now suffering the same problem. Like, listen, I'm not saying Democrats are going to for sure lose the House or whatever. Or, yeah, lose the House. But it's looking like history is not on their side. Since 2010, there's been 4 midterm elections. And in 3 of those 4 elections, the party that has the most retirements in the House, excluding those that are running for a different position, they ended up losing the House. Yeah, only in 2014, which everyone knows, 2014's that midterm that had like 10 people voted. Outside of that, every single midterm since 2010, the more retirements you have, and excluding running for different positions, the worse it is for you. Which is common sense because you have all these retirements, and a lot of them are unexpected. Yeah, your party's going to scramble. Republicans, meanwhile, who else is going to retire? Maybe John Cornyn's forced out. Maybe he realizes, oh, I'm not going to win the primary and I'm just going to be a team player. Maybe. But outside of that, you already got Mitch McConnell gone, and everybody else, they're not going to retire. And on the House side, the same ordeal. You might see 1 or 2 retirements, but Democrats, it looks like we're talking about like a couple dozen might be gone. They might be primaried out. So it just starts adding up, and this becomes a tiny problem at first. But what's going to happen next year? If you have like 30 Democrats that retire or forced out, and it's not just the House, it's in the Senate, and Republicans, meanwhile, they really didn't lose anybody. Who do you think benefits from that? Republicans. And a reminder, the Democrats right now, they're out of money. They're running out of money. They're running out of resources. The U.S. aid money's disappearing, which is very funny, by the way. But at this point, how can anyone say, yeah, these are actually good news for Democrats? It's not. If this was 1 or 2 retirements, fine, whatever. If it was like Massachusetts, fine. But it's not just safe Democrat areas. It's places like Michigan that voted for Trump just a couple months ago. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of months. We're going to see even more retirements. But right now, Democrats are in deep trouble. Like, I don't know how anyone could say, oh, this is actually good for Democrats. No. If this was 1 or 2 retirements in Illinois, fine, no one cares. But it's not. It's now just getting into states like Illinois, places like Virginia we might see a retirement in. These are states that, you know, they're not going to vote Republican, but they're not the only ones having these retirements. Now you're having these retirements in swing states, and those primaries look horrible for Dems. So we'll see. A lot could happen. I'm not saying it's for sure going to be a red wave or whatever, but if you're the Democrat Party, how can you say this is good? I don't know how anyone could say, oh yeah, this is actually good news for Democrats. No, it's not. If it was a bunch of Republicans retiring, yeah, that would be really bad for Republicans. But right now, there hasn't been a single retirement as of now. Well, you have Mitch McConnell, but that's it. That's the only major retirement on the Republican side. Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. Everybody else, they're all leaving, and they basically announced at the same time that they're all going. And if you factor in, hey, Mark Warner might retire as well in Virginia, there could be like 5 or 6 Democrats just in the Senate to be retiring. In a year that already the map looks horrible for them. And now they may have to defend places like New Hampshire, Michigan, Minnesota, Virginia. That adds up. When you have this many Senate races that could be competitive out of the blue, which I'm not saying they're going to lose these states, but it makes it much harder for them to win even one state. It's going to become very difficult for them to win a place like North Carolina if they have to spend all this money in a place like, I don't know, Virginia or whatever, which, again, I'm not saying it's going to flip. I should be clear about that. Just because these people are retiring, it doesn't mean it's going to automatically flip. But when you lose somebody with incumbency, it tends to hurt. And if you don't have an automatic replacement, that makes it even worse. And this was a big problem for Republicans 4 years ago. Back in 22, yeah, they primaried out a lot of bad people, but those primaries were brutal. It was ugly. We spent tens of millions of dollars, and we barely took back the House. Now, it's 2022, but you could argue even worse for Dems. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.